Pleased to do it. I would now ask Sean Dunnigan, a member of the Miami Indian Nation of Indiana, to lead us in an opening prayer.
This is the God Praise the Lord's Prayer. It's in Miami language, so everybody will bow their heads. Nawana Tasa Lilium, Alkilson Twalsa, Nakiza Naki Wilia, Kayan Yalis, Cheon Nakiwa, Kaya Gaya Noka Kayo, Nuasash, Tweon on Twaha, Noka Kaya Wike on Se, into Sako, Wiasanasna, Wakanatik Natik Bill, Anishinash Kawash, Aho. Amen.
Thank you, Sean. Those who can stand, please stand as Madison Williams will sing the national anthem for us this morning.
What so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, Saint, us that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the hope of the brave.
Thank you, Madison. Well done. Please join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You can be seated. We'll first hear from Mayor Gabriel Greer as he reads the proclamation today. Bruce Embry will then follow, and then Michael Brindle, who is Vice President of the Zeta Psi Tau Gamma Chapter, Purdue University, West Lafayette, Indiana. And so Mayor Greer will read the proclamation. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out today. Despite the frigid weather, it's great to see so many people coming out to honor our veterans. I have a short declaration here to read. A World War I commemoration. Whereas a century ago, 4.7 million American families sent their sons and daughters off to World War I, and whereas the resources of our entire nation were brought to bear on the war effort, and whereas 116,516 Americans gave their lives in the war, and more than 200,000 were wounded. And whereas in November 2018, the world will commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Armistice that ended the fighting in World War I at 11 a.m., November 11th, 1918, the 11th hour of the 11th day in the 11th month. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the World War I Centennial Commission does hereby call upon all Americans across the nation to pause at 11 a.m. on November 11, 2018, and recognize and commemorate and give thanks for the service and sacrifice of those who served in World War I. Thank you.
3,000 miles from home, an American army is fighting for you. Everything you hold worthwhile is at stake. Only the hardest blows can win against the enemy we are fighting. Invoking the spirit of our forefathers, the Army asks your unflinching support to the end that the high ideals for which America stands may endure upon the earth.
Well, it's a great honor to participate in this memorial ceremony. I want to share a few facts about Miami County's participation in World War I and how often you get to follow General Pershing. What an honor that is. Nearly 2,400 men registered in Miami County on June 5th, 1917, which was the very first day of the World War I draft, but not everyone was selected for duty. These past 18 months have been dedicated to identifying those brave Miami County soldiers. Not all left at the same time. Those who enlisted before the draft were the first to go. The largest contingent left the Peru Depot on September 21st, 1917. These new doughboys were sent to Camp Taylor in Louisville, Kentucky for training. It's said that around 5,000 family members and friends came to see them off. Later drafts were added to the first, and by October of 1918, some 6,000 men from Miami County had signed up for the new draft. So far, 1,485 who went to war have been identified, and the search continues. Many were Peru High School graduates, but they came from all parts of the county. Most were sons of farmers, but others were railroaders or circus workers or sons of well-to-do families. They were all in the same new army. They would be nicknamed Sammies, but they preferred to be called Doughboys. Most answered the call to arms without hesitation. These farmers and railroaders and circus workers were the hope of Europe, and Europe would not be disappointed.
This war began in August of 1914. By the spring of 1915, in no man's land, where the battle raged, fielded poppies began to sprout everywhere. Canadian doctor Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae, a fellow Zeta Psi brother, had just buried one of his men. As he sat on the side of the road, he could see wild poppies blowing in the breeze, and crosses standing row on row. It inspired him to write what would become the most famous war poem, In Flanders Fields. The last stanza would, in turn, inspire an American teacher in New York, Wena Michael, to promise herself she would forever wear a poppy. Soon she was making silk poppies as other people wanted to follow her example. This is how the poppy became the symbol of World War I remembrance for the fallen.
That's
We've just heard the Peru High School Swing Choir's interpretation of the famous poem in Flanders Field. Today, the poppy continues to represent the veteran fallen in times of war. Armistice Day is no longer called Armistice Day. It's called Veterans Day and honors all soldiers' service. The poppies you see here represent every one of the World War I veterans connected to Miami County that we've been able to identify. Some were born here and moved away. Some were born here and remained here. And some moved here and are buried here. Brigadier General Dieter Bryce described their motivation at Flanders Field American Cemetery last Memorial Day. He was talking about the men buried there. One of them is one of our Miami County boys, Otto Maderi. What he said of them applied to those who returned just as much as it did to those who made the ultimate sacrifice. He said this: their selfless service and sacrifice was not for glory. It was not for treasure, not for power. Instead, it was liberty, democratic values, and human dignity they fought, united in a common cause under the flag. Andrew Thiem of Foot Locker Stories came from Muncie today to perform a very special song. He will be followed by Colonel Miles A. Straley, United States Air Force, retired. Andrew.
Thank you, Bill. And what an honor it is to be here today. The poem I'm about to share with you was written by John Hunter Wickersham, a doughboy of the 353rd Infantry Regiment. On the night of September 11th of 1918, John penned a letter home to his mother to let her know that her soldier boy was safe. The very next day, the Battle of Saint-Mihiel began, and Lieutenant Wickersham was killed. He received the Medal of Honor for his actions. His citation tells us that he was severely injured by a shell blast, and yet tended to the wounds of his orderly before his home. With a mangled and torn right arm, he took up his pistol with his left hand, firing towards the German lines, and continued to lead his men in the advance until finally succumbing to his wounds. Well, after her son's death, Mrs. Wickersham received his letter that concluded with a poem. Almost 100 years later, Helen Patton, granddaughter of General George S. Patton, set that poem to music. She performed it in 2017 at the Centennial Commemoration of the U.S. entry into World War I at our National World War I Museum and Memorial in Kansas City. And we gathered then as a nation, as we do today as Hoosiers, to remind ourselves, to honor their sacrifice, and to never forget. This is the patter of the raindrops on your old tin hat. The mist hangs low and quiet on the ragged line of hills. There's a whispering of the wind across the flat. You'd be feeling kind of lonesome if it wasn't for one thing: the patter of the raindrops on your old tin hat. And you can't help but figuring, sitting there all alone, about this war and hero stuff and that. And you wonder if they haven't sorta got things all mixed up, while the rain, it keeps a patter on your old tin hat. When you step out with your outfit to do your little bit, you're simply doing what you're supposed to do. And you don't take time to figure what you gain or what you lose. It's the spirit of the match that pulls you through. But back at home, she's waiting, writing cheerful little notes And every night she offers up a prayer and just keeps on a-hoping that her soldier boy is safe. She's the mother of the boy that's over there. And fellows, she's the hero of this great big ugly war. And her prayer is that wind across the flat. And don't you reckon maybe it's her tears and not the rain that's keeping up the patter on your old tin hat? The patter of the raindrops on your old tin hat.
Beautiful. Beautiful. In 1917, Captain Robert Kesnier designed a banner of white material. It was bordered in red, on which he placed 2 blue stars, one for each of his sons that was fighting on the front line. His banner quickly became the unofficial symbol for parents with a child in active military service. On September 24th of 1917, a congressman from Ohio Okay, I'm going to start from the beginning because I don't think everybody in the back can hear me. In 1917, Captain Robert Kesnier designed a banner out of white material. It was bordered in red, and on which he placed 2 blue stars. One was for each of his sons that was fighting on the front lines. His banner quickly became the unofficial symbol for parents with a child in active military service. On September 24th of 1917, a congressman from Ohio declared the adoption of the flag and added in the congressional record that the dearest thing in all of the world to a father and a mother is their children. Before long, these service banners or flags began appearing in the windows of local families. They soon also went into churches, schools, and businesses. Even townships joined to remember the members of their communities. This is the story of the Blue Star Service Banner.
Thank you, Miles. The American Legion Glen Oaks Post 14 building was recently donated to DePaul. And that is where Angela Case, the manager of St. Vincent de Paul, discovered what looked like a beautiful quilt. It turned out to be the Blue Star service banner displayed by the First Baptist Church 100 years ago. It bears the names of 81 people, one of whom was Dr. Hoyt, pastor at the church, who accepted an assignment for war working with the YMCA. Let us now hear from John Hawkins of the American Legion.
I will say that all the time that I was up here, going through that building, I never did see that quilt at all. I am so thankful that they was able to find that. A little bit further on that Blue Star banner, sadly, it fell out of use during the Vietnam War, but thankfully it came back into use around 1990. There is one other star that goes on these banners, and that's the gold star. And unfortunately, when we see that gold star, that tells us that we have lost someone, and they're never coming back to a loved one here in the States. There's two ways the gold stars are displayed. One, if you've got several members in the family that's serving, the gold star takes the highest precedence on that banner. And the other way is if it's the only one, the only family member, then you change out the blue star banner for a gold star. As a veteran, we never want to see those gold stars hanging in a window somewhere. Because someone like myself who does the military rites, we have to do those military rite funerals too many times, and that just, every time we see those gold stars, it hammers home more and more how lucky some of us were to come home. So, that's what the meaning of the gold star is.
Thank you. When we take a closer look, we notice names that carry a long time local history. Edwards, Redmond, Shirk. Some are still found here like Baber, Chandler, Cunningham, Hopper, Marburger. And one in particular stands out, one of Peru's claim to fame, Cole Porter. But all these names share one thing. They answered the call of duty, and they all have blue stars as a sign of their service to their country. We'll now hear from Jay Kendall.
Good morning, everybody. Let's take a moment and everybody stand up, shake that off a little bit. I've done too many Veteran Day ceremonies to know that we need to keep the blood going. That's one of the reasons why we moved the veteran ceremonies into the high school, which will be Monday at 11 o'clock. The other thing I want to do is I want to take a moment of silence here for the killings in Thousand Oaks, California. The flag is at half-staff for that purpose, so I'd like to take a moment for that while we're all standing. Thank you. You can be seated. Families and friends were invited to claim their veteran, and the response has been overwhelming. Some of the local residents, some are from surrounding counties, some are being traveled from out of state to be here with us today. And we thank you for being here. It means a lot. At this time, we'd like to call on your veterans' names so that we can place the poppies in the lawn as remembrance to them. Max Hines from North Grove asked if we could place a poppy for Albert DePoy and Harvey Lloyd on his behalf, and they were already in place. So I'd like to turn it back over to our familiar voice, Bruce Simper.
We honor Alan Allspaw, and here on his behalf is his daughter, Kay Richardson. John Woods Allspaw, his grandchildren Dolores DeWald Kingery, Don and John DeWald. Ira Emerson Anderson, his granddaughter Kay Mobley. Laverne Raymond Feller, his son Max Anderson. Oral Harvey Anderson, his daughter Nancy Anderson, accompanied by her husband Ted and Linda Gray. William Armstrong, by his granddaughter Vicki Wetch. Carl Hudson Bacon and Fred Luce Bacon, by their grandson John Hawkins. Homer Barsh, Hiram Eidings Barsh, Braxton Higgins Barsh, and Warren Barsh, by their grandson Daniel D. Roberts. Dana Biggs and Dwelly Biggs. Dana by his granddaughter Susie Brown. grandniece, his great niece, Susie Brown. John Walter Boyer, by his grandson, John Wilson. Jay Burke and William R. Swingle, by his daughter Pauline Feller and her youngest granddaughter, Monica Oliver. Benjamin Franklin Butt, by Susie Anderson. Ellis Henry, Elmer Willis, Fred Phillip, Samuel and Stephen A. Butt, by Adam Butt and children. John Edgar Holler and George Castle, by their stepson and great-nephew Steve Castle. Clarence Wilson Clark, by his grandson Tim Clark and by Amanda Taylor. Vern Kahn, by his grandniece Kay Smith. Joseph H. Costin and his brothers James Michael and John Richard, by their daughter and niece Mary Costin. Edward Ward Cunningham, by his cousin Gigi Mullinax. Forrest E. Graham, by his son Charles Graham and his grandson Jerry Wilson. Clay and Paul Griswold, by Carol Griswold. Dewey Griswold, by his granddaughter Sonia Morgan. David M. Hagan, by Jim Richards. Charles Levi Heilman, by his grandson Danny Tyler. John Leonard Heilman, by his son Elmer Heilman. John Hoyt, representing the YMCA Executive Director Mark Dimchak. James M. Kepner, Elliot B. Ireland, and William Kepner, by Dorothy Ireland Balaban and her cousins Scott and Mike Kepner. Andrew Kemple, by his great-nephew Kent Kemple. Gilbert Kenley, by Sarah Andrews. Robert Lodenthal, by his granddaughter Pam Pops. Pam here, or her sister Sherry. Francis Edwin Morrell, by Mindy Lees Johnson. Roy and Lee Nice, by their great-granddaughter, great-grandniece, Gloria Luke and her son, Brady Sloan. Paul Edward and Victor Odeker, by Paula Odeker. Frank Reeves Piper, by Sandy Corner. James Adam Raymer, by his granddaughter, Vicki Kennedy. Thomas, Arthur, Bill, and Walter Raymer by Kem Munn. William Preston Scott, Ulysses Grant, and Noah Clarence Chambers by Becky Scott and Marty and Chuck Phillips. Luther Schultz by granddaughter Joyce Bidkiff. Charles M., Harlan A., and Hugh Orrin Frank by their great-grandnephew David, son of Frank. John Thomas Spellman by his granddaughter Beth Stevens. Charles Stanley by Alexandria Blong. Frank and Gabriel Tucker by his great-grandnephew Dave Tucker. Howard Unger Sr. by his good friend and neighbor Barb Hughes. Gussie Leroy Wagner by his son Dan Wagner of North Grove. John and Robert Warner by his cousin Debbie Baylor. Artie Wells by Chris Wells Nowes. Frederick Schmidt by Charles Schmidt. And Paul Butson by Rick Butson.
There will now be a song performed by Jennifer North. Jennifer.
We'll try that again. It sounds a little better. Let's see. The flags were waving gaily all along the village street. The air was filled with music and the sound of marching feet. The boys had come back home again, their fighting days were done, and every heart was filled with joy for the glory they had won. A gray-haired mother tried to smile amid the cheers and cries. She murmured softly when she gazed with sad and tear-dimmed eyes. My boy was one of those who went away. He was my pride and joy. I loved him just as every other mother loves her boy. He gave his life to Uncle Sam. He's sleeping o'er the phone. So while you're cheering, don't forget the boys who won't come home.
Thank you, Jennifer. We are blessed to have a doughboy here in our courtyard square, newly renovated thanks to Caleb Staker with one of his Eagle Scout projects, so it's basically brand new. The doughboy statue stands above the plaque that bears 18 names. These belong to 18 men recognized as Miami County Gold Stars. This means that they made the ultimate sacrifice. Some of them died in France, some of them when they returned home after the war. Some remain on foreign soil. We recognize Anastasia Holland Hardin and her family for locating the graves of those who sleep in France and for sharing her experience with us. Through research, 12 more names have been added to the list of Gold Stars. Some have been acknowledged in neighboring counties, some were overlooked completely. It was not necessary to be killed in action to receive a Gold Star. Some of our men died because of the flu epidemic, others due to other circumstances. We are honored today to have representatives from the family of 6 Gold Stars with us. They will also be honored to have Jane Black, the mother of our most recent Gold Star veteran, Jared Black, who died during the Iraq War.
We honor Edward Gaffrey, who was the first Miami County doughboy to be killed on the battlefield. He was killed on July 25th, 1918, and his body was returned to Peru. He is buried in Mount Hope Cemetery. Judy Michalik represents him. Ross Blaine Boyer, killed in action, July 30th, 1918, in France. Allison Paul, filling in for Maria Blaze O'Loughlin from North Carolina, claiming her great-uncle. Ralph Noah Flora died of pneumonia on October 22nd, 1918 at Camp Sheridan. Joanne Maxine Stevens represents him. John Michael Jenny, killed in action August 4th, 1918 in France. Paula Oediker was here for him. Fred Cater died of a disease contracted at camp on December 10th, 1917. Lisa Heilman Kawana represents him. Albert Ploss was killed in action October 24th, 1918. He is buried in France. Rick Ploss, his great-nephew, is here on his behalf. George Ayres, killed in action on August 2nd, 1918 in France. Jane Black is here for him. Jerome Antrobus, killed in action August 4th, 1918 in France. Ed Beeler is here on his behalf. Thomas Agar died of pneumonia on March 4th, 1919 in Germany. Carol Wybrew of the DAR is here for him. She is a DAR regent. Ernest A. Kreitz died of pneumonia October 27th, 1918 in France. Karen Troutman of the DAR is here for him. Lawrence A. Easterday was killed overseas in an accident on September 1st, 1918. Mary Berkelbile of the DAR represents him. Harry K. Bagshaw died of pneumonia on January 3rd, 1919 in England. Angie Case of the DAR is here for him. Fred Edgerly died on April 26, 1920 of tuberculosis contracted during the war. Ruth Berkelbile of the DAR represents him. Floyd Harmon lost his life when the minesweeper he was assigned to was sunk on July 12, 1919 in Scotland. Vicky Weil of the DAR is here for him. Harvey Edgar Hempelman died of the flu at Camp Cody on November 7th, 1918. Karen Troutman of the DAR is here for him. Leo Philip Holland was killed in an accident on April 15, 1919 in France. Luann Agnes of the DAR is here. William E. Holland died of pneumonia on October 11, 1918 at Camp Taylor, Kentucky. Albert Sanders of SAV is here for him. Carl Harvey Horton died June 30th, 1918 of wounds received in action in France. Andrew Thiem is here for him. Glenn Forrest Owens, killed in action August 31st, 1918 in the Argonne Drive in France. Ryan Wolfe of the Military Foundation of Kokomo is here for him. Lieutenant Colonel Edgar A. Ridenauer died of pneumonia on March 22, 1918 in Washington, D.C. Sharon Dillman of the DAR represents him. Alonzo D. Sarver, drowned at Camp Shelby on May 22, 1918. Christina Nunn of the DAR represents him. Raymond L. Walters died on July 21, 1917 at Fort Russell of Septus. Mary Costin of the DAR represents him. Charles Bond died of pneumonia on October 11, 1918 at Camp Taylor, Kentucky. K. Smith Carroll of the DAR is here for him. Ashton Morrow Baldwin, M.D., died of the flu on April 16, 1919 in Denver, Colorado. And Vita McLean of the DAR is here for him. Everett Cassidy died of pneumonia on October 1st, 1918 at Camp Upton, New York. Carol Wybrew, DAR Regent, is here for him. Wilbur Goldthwaite died in Ohio on November 1st, 1917. Karen Troutman of the DAR is here on his behalf. Charles Riggle died of mastoiditis on March 6, 1918 at Camp Taylor, Kentucky. Mary Berkelbile of the DAR is here for him. Lawrence A. Roberts died of pneumonia on October 2, 1918 at Camp Sherman, Ohio. Vicki Weil of the DAR is here for him. Alva Schrader died on April 29, 1919 from wounds sustained in action overseas. Luann Agnes of the DAR represents him. Otto Mandary was killed in action on November 1st, 1918 in Belgium. Vita McLean of the DAR represents him.
Another way to qualify as a Gold Star is to die as a direct result of wounds sustained during a time of conflict. Such is the case of Harriet Carfrey, a Marine nurse who lingered until 1921. She was injured when an enemy attacked the hospital where she was working. She never recovered from her experience. She received full military rights and rests at our Mount Hope Cemetery. Today, we would like to add her name to our Miami Gold Star Honor Roll. Catherine McCauley, Executive Director of the American Red Cross in Fort Wayne, will place a poppy for her in the lawn.
Another symbol talked about in John McCrae's poem, outside of the poppies, is the idea of the torch and the torch being passed. The torch be yours to hold it to hold it high, if ye break faith with us who die. The veterans that died in World War I were doing just that, passing the torch to the future generations. And John McCrae wanted to encapsulate that within the idea in Flanders Fields. John McCrae's poem also inspired answers. As he threw the torch to the next generation, this is R.W. Lillard's response. America's answer. Rest ye in peace, ye Flanders dead. The fight that you so bravely led, we've taken up and we will keep. True faith with you who lie asleep, with each a cross to mark his bed. And poppies blowing overhead, when once his own lifeblood ran red. So let your rest be sweet and deep in Flanders Fields. Fear not that ye have died for naught, the torch ye threw to us we caught. 10 million hands will hold it high, and freedom's light shall never die. We've learned the lesson that ye taught in Flanders Fields.
This field of poppies represents a lesson learned. This community has caught the torch. More than 1,000 Miami County residents from ages 4 to 96 have produced this field of remembrance. Let the memory be carried another 100 years, and let us build on the foundation of freedom that these veterans' legacies to us. As we come to end our program, we thank you for making your journey in the freezing cold with us this year. We have made new friends across the county and hope to build on the momentum as we continue to gather the stories of Miami County. You may have noticed the Red Cross over there. We are lucky to be able to partner with the No Bad Blood Bloodmobile. They will be here until 3 p.m. and walk-ins are welcome.
We'll now conclude this program today with the laying of a wreath before the Doughboy. We will also meet again here tomorrow at 10:50 in the morning to hear St. Charles bell toll with the many across the nation who have joined in the bells of peace, and our police department squad cars and fire department fire trucks. And there will be a fireworks display, yes, a fireworks display in the middle of the day, courtesy of Paul Foreman. We hope you will take with you a spirit of peace and gratitude for the freedom we enjoy, and Jay Kendall will lay the wreath at the Doughboy. Thank you all for attending.